We're looking at problem 29 from 3-3. I'll put 3-3 up here for us. You were given this lovely picture of a suspension bridge. It's a classic parabola problem because as these this cable hangs between the two towers, it's always going to form this parabolic shape. So the equation's given, which is not something that you need to come up with. That's given to you here. They're going to ask you a couple questions about it. One being how far from each tower is the lowest part of the cable. Well, the lowest part of the cable right here is at that vertex, the minimum. So they basically want to know, like, what is this distance? How far from here is it? Now, I only highlighted one side, but because we know it's symmetrical, right? If we have a parabola, there's an axis of symmetry through the vertex. So this side is the same length over here. And then they also want to know how high is the road above the water. So they want to know, how high? Oh, yeah, this is the road. This is water down here. Here, I'll make it blue. This is water. Bridges over water. So the road, right, is where they're driving. How high is the road above the water? So that is going to be looking for this height right here. So if we get that value of the vertex, which we can get because we have the equation, we will know the x value, which is going to give us this yellow answer, how far this is. And then we'll have the y value, which is this pink answer, how high that is. So that's what we're going to want to do. We're going to find the vertex, and we do that by finding first the axis of symmetry. So let me rewrite this equation here. All right, there's the equation. Now we want to find the vertex, so we're going to do x equals the opposite of b over 2a. This equation will actually be this green vertical line here that I drew, the axis of symmetry. All right, so the opposite of b is actually a -1. We don't really see that 1 there, but that is a -1. So when I put in the opposite of b, it's going to be a +1. You can think of it as a negative. Okay, now this part people don't love because a is a fraction, but it's okay. We can do that. 2 times, now this is going to be -1 over 400. And you have a couple ways to tackle this. I'm going to actually do this kind of by hand a little bit, and then I'll show you how to plug it into the calculator. But we're going to get 1 over, so this is 2 over 1, so this is -2 over 400. And then let's see, move it up a little bit here. This is 1 over -1 over 200. Just simplify that fraction. When I'm dividing by a fraction, I'm going to multiply by its reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply 1 by 200 over -1, which is really just 1 times a -200. So that's -200. And let's see. I feel like, oh, I made a mistake. I was like, why is this negative? It doesn't make any sense that it's negative. It shouldn't be negative. And here's why. When I rewrote this problem down, I made this guy negative, but it's not supposed to be. And the reason I realized this was a problem is my x value that we just calculated was supposed to be over here. This is in the positive quadrant. So good news is I don't have to redo the algebra at all because it's just a minor sign change. I'll show you where I'm fixing it here in red. So this should really be positive, which means this is positive, which means this is positive, which means this is positive, that's positive, and that's positive. So all the numbers stayed the same. So my x value is 200. And this makes sense. This is a really reasonable answer for how far the middle of the bridge would be from one of the towers. So x is 200. That's this value right here on x. So I know that this is at 200 something. So I'll just do 200, comma. We're going to get the y value in a second. And I can write this. How far from each tower is the lowest part of the cable? So it's 200 feet here. It's 200 feet there. I'm going to put 200 feet. Be careful when you answer this. Sometimes they'll ask for the distance between the towers. And in that case, you need to do 200 plus 200. Okay, we want to get how high this is. So we basically just need to get this little value here. So now that we know x is 200, we're just going to plug that into the function. So y is equal to positive 1 over 400 x squared. So 200 squared minus x, so minus 200 plus 150. So all I did here was take my original equation and just replace the x value with 200. And at this point, I 100% want the calculator. Oh, and I told you on that last one, I would show you how to type it in. So I'll do that at the end. Let's get this guy going. So we got 1 divided by 400. I'm just going to put that in as a fraction in parentheses times 200 squared minus 200 plus 150. And that's going to give me 50. All right, here's that syntax if you want to see it. Maybe a little bit better with no glare. Okay, so my y value here is 50. So that means that this is the height of this coordinate. It's 250. And that means that this is 50 feet off the ground. Okay, so now the domain and range, I'm going to see if I can get it to where we can see this full picture when we talk about the domain and range. Oh, maybe not quite. I'll do that here on this little piece of paper. Okay, so the domain and range, we need to know basically how far we're going on the x-axis. So here we actually do need to know if it's 200 feet here, it's 200 feet there. So this blue parabola only goes from 0 over to 400. So our domain, it's from 0 to 400. And if we can conceptually see that, we're good to go. If we want to put that in domain notation, we're going to say x is all real numbers, and we're going to set up our inequality, low number to high number. X goes right in the middle, and then we have our inclusive inequality symbols. It starts at 0, ends at 400, includes those values, x's between them. Okay. Then we want to get the range. Now, on the range, it's really important that we recognize that over here, our low point is 50. And then our high point right here, well, that's the y-intercept from the graph. That's at 150. So if we're looking at this in terms of the range, the vertical, we're going from 50 to 100. So in our range, if you think about it, it's from 50 to 150. I think I said 100 a second ago, 50 to 150. So if we put that in range notation, y is all real numbers as long as we go from 50 to 150, put y in between them, get your inequality symbols, and there it is. So I'll just rewrite these two things down here at the bottom to answer. Okay, x is all real numbers, and we go from 0 to 400 on x, right? 0 to 400. Range, all real numbers, and we go from 50 to 150, right? 50 to 150 on the y-axis. Okay, the last thing I did say, I would tell you how to type this thing into the calculator if you wanted to see that from the get-go, so I'll just do that right now. When we have this 1 over 2 times 1 plus 400, what you just need to recognize if you're going to type this in right at the beginning, make sure you have parentheses around the entire denominator. So if I'm going to type that in, yeah, we can see it there, okay? It's going to be 1 divided by, and then I set up a set of parentheses, what I did here in pink for the whole thing, 2 times 1 divided by 400. That's the fraction in parentheses. Then I need to close the parentheses for the denominator, hit enter, and you can see I get that same number. I still get x equals 200. Okay, there we go. A, B, and C with that lovely picture. Message me anytime you guys got questions.